Warner Brothers announces a sequel to I Am Legend. As the next films from both Fantastic Beasts and Judd Apatow get new trailers, AMC catches some flack for ticket prices, and The Batman finally hits theaters. I'm Joe Acierno.
And I'm Darius Delsoin. This is Cinema Unchained.
Okay. All right, before we talk about the newly announced sequel to I Am Legend, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Google Podcasts, Listen Notes, the Podcast Index, Stitcher, and more. If you want to help out the show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you can, and follow our social media pages that are listed in the description. Now, before we get into the latest trailer for Fantastic Beasts 3, I read on Deadline within the last couple of days that Warner Brothers is developing a sequel to I Am Legend with Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan attached to the project. Now, I'm almost positive that they're both going to be in producing roles. I think I also read that they're going to be starring in the film as well. Now, here's the thing. We both saw I Am Legend. We know how the movie ends. Even though there's an alternative ending to it, like the theatrical ending, Will Smith kind of dies and gets blown up. So I'm wondering how he's going to star in this film if he very clearly got blown up at the end of the film with all the zombies in the room. So it's not like, he can just like walk off an explosion, no problem. Like, no. If he survived, those zombies definitely survived. And he's not going to run away from any of those zombies after surviving an explosion. So I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, this is such an odd development that I heard that it was just like, why? And not only that, but this is my problem even with Avatar 2. As much as I'm somewhat, I'm not even excited for Avatar 2, but because the first one came out so long ago that now with I Am Legend, it's like now you're doing a sequel, and it's like, why? Like, why? There's the ending, it already solidified its ending and already told a complete story. That now it just feels as if now, and that I don't know, it's an odd feeling, and I understand Will Smith wants to probably do more or whatever it may be, but it's just like I Am Legend, it told its story. I don't think you need to expand upon it or anything like that. It's kind of, honestly, I wouldn't even really say a cash grab because it was just so long ago, but I mean, maybe it could. The thing is, I do not know, nor do I even care about this sequel, because I just like that. Like, it's not even, the story's already been told. It's not like it deliberately had an ending where, there's more to be told. No, it kind of had its ending. So knowing that it's a sequel and Will Smith's supposed to be coming back. Now, maybe they'll do a whole, he's a clone thing, and we have Michael B. Jordan in it. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what direction they're going to take it in.
No theory sounds good at this point.
I mean, it's look at Gemini Man. Like, they kind of do the whole clone thing. But
I never actually got a chance to see Gemini Man. Was that any good?
I enjoyed it. Not great, but I enjoyed it. But I like Michael B. Jordan. I want to see what he would be able to do in the sequel. Maybe it's more focused on him and less on Will Smith. Maybe Will Smith probably has some sort of cameo thing, or maybe he's a mentor in some way. But again, he died, so it's kind of like,
he really died. I mean,
it's weird.
Again, like, it just feels very weird, and like it feels odd that a sequel, like, to build off your point from before, it feels odd that a sequel is just being announced, like, not even like coming out, like it's just being announced 15 years after the first movie came out. The first movie came out in 2007, at the end of 2007. And again, we probably should have explained this at the beginning of all this. For those of you who haven't really seen or heard of this movie, it's a 2007 horror film that follows Will Smith as the last man on Earth after a worldwide plague kills most of the global population and leaves the remaining infected turned into like flesh-eating zombies. And I'm gonna be honest, like, the original movie's great. It scared the ever-living shit out of me when I was younger. Like, when you're younger, you start out, like, a lot of kids, like, start out being scared of the dark. So I started out being scared of the dark, got over my fear of the dark. Then this movie came out when I was, like, 10 going on 11 and started becoming scared of the dark again. So thank you so much for that. But no, like, it was a genuinely scary movie. And it's a PG-13 film, too. It's rated PG-13, and it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Because I don't know why, like, as much as it's like a sci-fi film, there's something about that I don't know, felt like maybe it could happen because it comes from, like, an advances in medicine or something like that. So I don't know,
sci-fi
like that always,
horror. Yeah, I love that.
yeah. So I don't know, it always gave me that kind of eerie feeling. Which again, like, that was the job of the movie to do, and it did that very well. No director is attached to the sequel yet. Francis Lawrence did the first film. He did a good job. And the plot details are being under wraps, too. So basically, all we know is that the sequel is being announced and that Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan are attached to it. And I'm going to be honest, like you said, too, I don't feel like this is necessary. Like, I was intrigued when I first read the development. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I really thought about it. I'm like, is this necessary? I honestly don't think so.
Yeah, like for me, it's gone past of it's not necessary to me just being like, I just don't care. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah. Like, it's weird. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm intrigued to see how it develops, but, like, my confidence isn't exactly there for this film.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see. For all you guys that are listening to us right now, do you have any thoughts on the announcement of a sequel to I Am Legend? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you actually care at this point? Because the first film came out so long ago. Leave your thoughts in that comment section. All right, now before we talk about the next film from Judd Apatow, a new trailer was released this past week for Fantastic Beasts: The Secret of Dumbledore. The film follows Newt Scamander as he teams up with a young Albus Dumbledore to combat a growing anti-Muggle fringe wizard organization. Now, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm a fairly diehard Harry Potter fan. And when I was younger, back when the movies were still coming out in theaters, like, I would really anticipate, like, the release of the next Harry Potter film. I would mark my calendar. I would count the days. Anytime, like, just like a TV spot would come up on cable, I'd just lose my fucking mind. Like, I would just be so excited for the next one to come out. And all 8 films, like, some are better than others, but it's a fairly consistent series of films, which is kind of impressive when you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I'm not really looking forward to this next Fantastic Beasts film. And it's kind of sad because I think about, like, the joy that I had, as a kid with the Harry Potter films. And that level of interest just isn't there for me. I mean, the first Fantastic Beasts film was pretty good. And the second one, I'm going to be honest, is a bit of a mess. I remember liking it a bit more when I came out of the theater. But, like, as time has gone on, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. I'm going to be honest, I barely remember it. Like, it just didn't stick the landing for me.
Yeah, I saw the first Fantastic Beasts and I liked it and I enjoyed it. I still haven't seen the second one, so I know I'm going to have to see the second one before the third one. But from what I saw from the trailer, it interested me. I'm not, like, glamoring over it like, a Batman trailer or the Black Adam, any of the comic book trailers, really. That's for me. But, I think Fantastic Beasts is just in an odd spot now, I think, as a franchise, mainly because of just the poor reception of the second one, as well as some of the backlash, I guess, J.K. Rowling has been getting over the years as well. So I guess maybe not a lot of people are as excited as possible. And on top of that, some of the stuff with the Johnny Depp situation behind the scenes and that whole debacle. So I think it's in an odd place because it's in more of a gray, the reception, I guess, of this franchise is in more of a gray area and not necessarily out of excitement because of the drama that's happened behind the scenes and etc. So I hope that changes. Let's see if people, see the movie, they like it, and it's highly recommended. And if not, then no more Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts movies.
Yeah. Something else I noticed, too, was, of course, you have Jude Law playing a young Albus Dumbledore. And as much as I think he's an interesting pick, like, I'm curious to see how he does, the movie, it's kind of weird. Like, this movie, I think, takes place in, like, the 1920s or 30s, right? And, Dumbledore's looking like like Jude Law. Like, he's looking good. In the second Harry Potter film, there's, like, a flashback back to, like, the 1940s or 50s, right? And Dumbledore, and it shows Dumbledore looking pretty old. So I kind of saw this thing online, like, what happened to Dumbledore in like these 10 years where he's going from looking like Jude Law to how he looks in that flashback of the second Harry Potter movie. So I don't know. Maybe it's just, this is the thing that makes him age like 100 years, like whatever happens in this movie. I don't know. But how do you think Mads Mikkelsen is going to do as Grindelwald? He's the actor replacing Johnny Depp. And I'm going to be honest, like I thought Johnny Depp was an interesting pick. I think, I thought he was a decent villain, or he could play a decent villain. But obviously, he had all this stuff happen behind the scenes, like you said. But I'm curious as far as like what do you think of Mads Mikkelsen?
I like Mads Mikkelsen as a character, and honestly, when I saw the trailer, I liked him in the role. Like he felt somewhat, at least menacing, or at least serious. So I kind of took him seriously. So I think it was I like Mads Mikkelsen as an actor, and so I think him in his role is interesting. I think he's gonna do, probably with what he's given, a good job. So it's just gonna be a matter of waiting to see. Because again, it's like when I saw the trailer, I was like, "Oh wow, all right, Mads looking good in this movie, and he's feeling kind of." So it's like, I'm interested. But again, Fantastic Beasts, Harry Potter franchise, I've never really been big on. But I've always appreciated it. I like the films, and I've read the books. I like the books. But, it's not my cup of tea necessarily. Not the fantasy I like.
Yeah. That's fair. That makes sense. And again, like, maybe this is kind of an unfair comparison too, but like, I just don't feel the same connections to the Fantastic Beasts character and like, the world of this franchise as opposed to the Harry Potter franchise, right? But at the same time, like Harry Potter had a lot more time to develop both. Yeah. But if there's one character I do like in the Fantastic Beasts, it's Dan Fogler as Jacob Kowalski. He's kind of like the comic relief. He actually had a couple of like, he's had like a fair few like funny moments. I feel like if something were to happen to him, I'd be like, oh no. But it's weird. Like I said, I just don't feel the same, attachment. I really don't. So I don't know. It's kind of sad. But it's kind of what it is at this point. So, Fantastic Beasts 3 goes into theaters on April 15th. Lovely day to spend tax day this year. And for all you guys that are with us, how do you think Fantastic Beasts 3 looks? Are you kind of in like the same boat as me where you're like, it's not Harry Potter. You're only watching it because it's kind of related to where it is related to Harry Potter. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Before we talk about AMC's, I'd say, ticket experiment with the Batman, a trailer for a Netflix film from director Judd Apatow was released this past week. It follows a group of actors stuck inside a pandemic isolation location and their attempts to actually make a movie. Like I said, it's from director Judd Apatow, who gave us films like, the 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, The King of Staten Island. So I think he's very good at what he does. All solid movies. Anytime he has a comedy coming out, I'm always interested. And after watching this trailer, this doesn't feel like other things he's done before.
Well, I like 40-Year-Old Virgin. I like comedy. This just felt... When you sent me this trailer, I was just like, what the hell is the bubble? And then as I'm watching, I'm like, yep, this is a bubble. No, but in all seriousness, like, this feels... something about it I really like. I think I like the aspect of them trying to make the movie during the pandemic, and it's sort of like this mockumentary movie style, and the comedy. Like I like it. I like it a lot, and I really want to see it. I know that for sure.
Yeah, like I'm not getting a mockumentary feel from this as much, but I'm getting very much like it's just weird. Like I'm watching this movie, and like obviously there are allusions to, like you said, film production during the COVID-19 pandemic. I feel like there's going to be like a little digs here and there as far as like mass sequels in the movie industry, but at the same time, there's just something about this where I'm just not sure where this is going to go, and it makes me want to see it that much more because this movie just looks chaotic and it just looks honestly batshit crazy.
It looks so crazy. It has that crazy feel of like when you feel like something's going on and it's like going well, then all of a sudden something just hits, like the pandemic, unfortunately, and everyone just scattered all over the place. And I like seeing that, especially when it's sort of they're trying to make a movie sort of thing, because we've heard what happened during the pandemic, of what happened to certain productions. So I guess seeing it in a comedic way, on the screen with really solid actors as well, with Pedro Pascal and all these other actors. I think it's good. I think it's going to be something, and I think especially during this time where it's like we're not necessarily getting out of it, but things are smoothing over a bit more. So I mean, I think this is a good time for this type of release.
I think so too. Like again, we're at the point where we are moving forward, thank God. So I feel like that's coming out now where we're able to look back on certain things a bit more. I agree with you. Like now's a good time to bring this out. But yeah, no, you got a lot of big names in there. You know, he's casted his wife yet again, Judd Apatow. Leslie Mann is in this film. His daughter Iris Apatow is in this movie as well. His other daughter Maud Apatow was in The King of Staten Island. So he's got a penchant for casting family members in his last couple of movies. And honestly, like I think it works. You know, if they do a good job, why not? Why not make a movie with people that you actually love and love working with and trust? You know.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty excited for this movie. It looks fun. It looks funny. I'm down for it. That's a popcorn night.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. This one goes on Netflix on April 1st. And again, you know, are you guys going to be seeing this when it comes out? You know, if you have Netflix, it's not really going to be that much effort to make a night out of it, which it kind of bodes well. So, you know, leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can. Now, before we get into the new Batman film, AMC, like I said, is in a little bit of heat for a little experiment that they're doing. AMC CEO Adam Aaron announced that tickets for the Batman are going to cost $1.50 extra. This is part of a variable pricing experiment. And to quote Aaron, this is all quite novel in the United States, but actually AMC has been doing it for years in our European theaters. That was a direct quote from the company CEO. And funny enough, I was doing a little bit of reading as well. This sort of thing happening was actually predicted by both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, like back in 2013. Lucas shared his belief that moviegoing would eventually resemble like Broadway or sporting events, because like, you know, whenever you go to like one of those events, like depending on where you are, if you're closer to the arena or to the stage, like your ticket may cost a bit more. If you're further back, you know, you get a cheaper seat. And so like it's just weird. I don't know. Like, what do you think about like what they're trying to do here?
God damn it, AMC. That's how I feel. But it's odd because it's not necessarily odd. If he's saying they've been doing it for years overseas and they've been doing it over years overseas, but I think I don't know. I think it felt very strategic to do it now more than ever because of what's going on, how things are smoothing over, and the fact that the Batman, probably one of the other biggest movies to come out, other than No Way Home, to increase, you know, probably theater revenue and etc. and profit and etc. And it feels very strategic. It feels very tacked on. Like that's how it felt. Not necessarily last minute, but just like, you know what, the Batman's coming out. Let's raise ticket prices for this movie when this happens because, hey, it's Batman. That's how it feels. And that's kind of really a messed up, I guess, mentality. Understandable. But at the same time, it's just like, why? Like, there wasn't any... You're going to make money regardless. But, I don't know, corporations.
No, it's weird. If I didn't have A-list, I'd be more annoyed. Honestly, from a business point of view, like, you know, it's pretty smart because the extra money you're going to make, you know, it's going to come from a movie that a bunch of people are going to see anyway, right? Like,
exactly.
An extra $1.50 is not going to stop most people from seeing the new Batman film. So if they're going to do what they can to give themselves a little bump up, like, it makes sense.
It makes sense, but also considering just how even some of the city prices of films have been going up, and if you try to get an IMAX ticket, that's about $30.
Yep.
And you do tackle that with the Batman, is a bit more than probably some people are willing to pay. But at the same time, you know, these films are also, you know, considering the Batman is also PG-13, parents may take their kids to see it. So it's just like it felt very strategic. It felt like this was planned pretty early on, and they just announced it out of nowhere. You know, because it's the Batman, and you know we think it's okay. And look at how much Batman is making right now, and it looks like it's on a route to making 200 million already. So
yeah, no, it's it's weird. Like, I can understand, like, if you're gonna do the whole price variance thing, right? Like, I can understand doing that, like, based on like the length of a film, right? Like how long you're sitting in the theater for, right? Like, okay, a shorter movie is gonna cost you less, a longer movie is gonna cost you more. That I can understand if they were to go through something like that. But it's an interesting development to say the least. But it's like, I don't know. I guess this is just the world that we live in right now, with theaters like doing what they have to do to like really stay alive. I mean, AMC was almost bankrupt in like the last couple of years or so. So but just makes me wonder too. Like, by them doing this, are they gonna create like a sort of bad vibe for themselves, like with the fact that they're doing this and just like announcing this too?
Yeah, I mean, like, they made a decision. I don't necessarily maybe about bad reputation or anything like that, but it's just like, I think what happened and how they were basically given an out within the past year and everything because of the pandemic. Maybe it's getting a bit more to their head. Who knows?
Yeah. So, we'll just have to see. Honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think this will deter them too much, especially since it's a movie like The Batman. I mean, we keep up to stuff with, we keep up to date with like a lot of these updates regarding like the movie industry and stuff like that. The average person does not.
Exactly.
If I'm not mistaken. So, like, they're just looking like, oh, I'm going to see The Batman. Like, oh, things are more expensive nowadays, right? Because of inflation and all that shit. Like, I feel like they'll probably just attribute it to that, as opposed to AMC literally announcing, like, oh, we're going to charge a little bit more for for Batman tickets.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, it's the unfortunate part is that it is what it is, and it's just like, is there going to be a massive, let's say, protest against this, and people aren't going to go to the theaters to see Batman or anything like that? No, I don't think so. No. But because the Batman is probably the biggest thing right now. Everyone's gonna want to go see it. Everyone's gonna want to go see it a second, third time, probably because of how long and dense this film is. But it is what it is. That's just how I gotta say it.
Yep, it's what it is at this point. So for all you guys that are listening to us, what do you think of AMC's little, I'm gonna call it, like I said, experiment with tickets for the Batman? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. All right, now we're at the end of the show, and to cap off the show, we're going to be talking about the long-awaited Matt Reeves interpretation of the Batman. This follows the Batman as he investigates Gotham City's clandestine corruption as a serial killer called the Riddler targets the city's elite. Now, I'm going to be honest, this is the best movie of 2022 so far. It's only March, but still, I feel like with how just bananas this movie is, I feel like it's worth saying. So I was blown away by this film. I was honestly blown away by this film. The closer that we got to this film, like the more excited I got, the higher my expectations were. And this film really just knocked it out of the park. It really did.
Yeah, I absolutely love this film, and it's crazy because we've been waiting for this film for so long, ever since it was announced, the first trailer. And for me, just from the trailers alone, as far as what I saw in a Batman movie and what I ideally wanted, it met all of that from the trailers. Then watching the movie, it actually surpassed it a bit more. And I absolutely thought this movie was great. I liked the tonality. I liked how Matt Reeves was very meticulous as well. And slow with some of the camera angles and shots. Like, it felt deliberate. It felt intentional. And throughout the entire film, you just get that sense and feeling of tension, right? Even when certain moments aren't tense necessarily, everything that happened before just carried over. It constantly carried over. And I think Matt Reeves just did an excellent job in portraying a young Batman, not necessarily an origin movie, but a version of Bruce Wayne that hasn't fully donned the identity and the mask of what being Batman is, instead of a tunneled, bitter vision of the idea of vengeance, but also not realizing how it can affect the lower people as well. And I think Matt Reeves just did an absolute stellar job of showing Batman's journey and Gotham's journey at the same time.
Yep. And I'm happy that Matt Reeves was the guy in charge of helming this film. He's got a great pedigree behind him. He did the last couple Planet of the Apes films. He did Cloverfield. He did Let Me In. And it's weird. This film felt enough like his other films to like fit into his filmography. Like he brought his own artistic style to it that made it feel like a Matt Reeves film. But at the same time, he did a great job differentiating this film from the other films in his filmography. There's just one great scene after another. One particular scene that's also in the trailer too. Batman walking away from the flames towards the Penguin with the camera upside down. Like I remember like everyone clapping in the theater. Like that's a memory I'm not going to forget for a very long time. My buddy Roberto, he's sitting next to me, and that scene was just so great. He literally turned to me, he's just like, "That scene, wow, that was such a great scene. Oh my god!" Like while the movie's still playing, like he literally took the time out of watching the movie, like and taking it in to literally comment to me, like, "Holy shit, that was awesome." I loved the gloomy, authentic world that Gotham, or really, the world of Gotham, which I honestly felt pulled into. I felt the despair, like not just from like the tonality of everything, but just like from the visuals as well. This movie is gorgeous to look at. The action sequences are just spectacular. Again, like one car chase scene in particular just like really had me on the edge of my seat. And the biggest thing I admire about this film is just how ambitious it is. This honestly is, I'd say even more so than The Dark Knight, is the most ambitious Batman film. And it's definitely the most ambitious film that I've ever seen Matt Reeves take on. Yeah. And just the size and scale of this and how well he pulled everything off made this worth seeing in IMAX.
Yeah, and one of the things The Dark Knight is an amazing film by itself, and I hear a lot of people trying to compare it to that, and I understand, but to me, this was also a risky Batman movie. It is crazy to me how now modern day WB creates a film like The Joker and is beloved by many others, crossing $1 billion. And then they take almost that same risk of giving Batman a different tone, different tonality, not making it as family friendly, really, as you may think, compared to maybe other Batman films, and really flipping the idea of Batman in the movies upside down on its own head. And I really like that they gave Matt Reeves the range and the creativity to make the Batman film that he wanted to make. And that's something that he was discussing during an interview, was that he wanted to make the Batman film he wanted to make. He didn't want to do a Batman film that was connected to, I guess, the rest of the DCEU as they were planning with Ben Affleck's Batman film. And so, again, like one of the things, and if I had to compare to The Dark Knight, and this was one of my issues with The Dark Knight, was that Gotham was not its own character necessarily in the film, or didn't feel as lived in necessarily. Didn't feel unique. Where to me, the Batman, if like the cinematography, the color palette, the set design really made Gotham feel like its own entity, its own character, how it influences others, and I love that. And that reminds me of Batman the Animated Series vibes, and even some of the comics as well. I really like the detective aspect. That's something we don't really see a lot in Batman films, unfortunately, which I'm happy they did it with this. And there are also certain gadgets that they used in a creative way that you didn't see in other Batman properties that I really enjoyed too. I was kind of freaking out during one of the things with and my friend Will was next to me like, dude, what's going on? Like, I'll tell you later. I just think this is so cool how they're doing it. But again, like I love how lived in, how distraught Gotham is, how you get a sense that you should not be living here. You know?
Exactly. Like you get the sense that if you're just walking around, like something terrible can happen to you at any time, and almost nothing can be done about it. Like that's the sense of despair I got from this movie. That's the sense of despair I got from this world. I'm happy you mentioned like the whole detective Batman aspect too, because like you said, that's not, at least for me personally, that's definitely not an element I'd seen in Batman before. I've only really seen like, the Dark Knight trilogy, and I never read any of the comic books. But seeing this new element, like I thought was really cool. And I was actually interested in solving the mystery too. like on top of Batman, like, fighting bad guys and, tangling with all these infamous villains, I was interested in the mystery that he was trying to solve too. And I was trying to, work it out myself as the movie was playing out. The comparisons to David Fincher's Zodiac and Seven are definitely on point. And I thought it tackled the theme of like government corruption really well. I loved seeing just how deep-seated the corruption really is in Gotham. I love what they did with that. And every character was interesting and got a moment to shine. Like, there's a lot of characters in this film that, are meant to be a big deal somehow, and no one felt like a throwaway. No one felt like they were just rammed in there. Everyone fit in very well. The roles that they all ended up playing, like, felt not just necessary, but unexpected in a way, too, in how they play out.
Yeah, it all felt interconnected in an integral way that I really enjoyed. However, there are some things I wasn't too fond of, and that's really the Batman-Catwoman relationship and how, to me, it felt a bit rushed, if not forced in. I understand. I know, the type of relationship they have, but just how they went about it, it kind of felt odd, to me at least.
Really?
Yeah, that's just me personally. Like, it just felt odd in certain ways because it's just like, okay, I understand that it was like maybe she's attractive maybe to the mystery, but again, certain things that happened, I was just like, you didn't have to go that far. But the ending, I also thought I really liked the ending. But here's one thing: I didn't expect it to go as longer as I thought it would because of something that happened. And I think because of that, it did feel a bit unfilling to a certain degree, but not too much because I still enjoyed the movie overall. Like I said, the entire ride through the journey from the beginning, middle, and end, it felt tense. I felt interested. And one of the biggest aspects as to why it felt interesting and it felt tense was the Riddler. And Paul Dano knocked it out of the park with this character. I like that it was a modern take on Riddler. It was inspired by this, he's a serial killer in a sense. Yep. And you just see what one man can do because he missed it because of certain things. I can't really go into spoilers.
That happened, like that certain things that happened earlier in his life. I think that's the most that we could say without giving anything away, which, let's be honest, like that's how a lot of villains, like, that's how a lot of their origin stories really go, right? Like, oh, something happened in their upbringing or whatever that fucked them up the way they did. And I agree with you. I think Paul Dano was awesome as the Riddler. He did the crazy serial killer thing really well. They keep, there's a joke going around out there that Ted Cruz is a Zodiac killer. I would like to start the hashtag Paul Dano is the Zodiac killer. Let's see if that sticks. Just kidding, kind of. I thought also, too, that Robert Pattinson, I think he stands tall with the other Batman. I really do. Yeah. I remember when he was first announced that he was going to be the next Batman, there were a lot of people that weren't on board with him, and I'm glad to say that I was not one of them. So who's laughing now? I felt like he had a very commanding presence as both Batman and Bruce Wayne. It definitely felt, at least for Bruce Wayne, it definitely felt like a Bruce Wayne that I didn't see in the Dark Knight trilogy. And I honestly felt like Pattinson disappeared into the role. Like, anytime I saw him on screen, I'm like, oh, that's not Robert Pattinson. Like, that's Bruce Wayne. That's the Batman. And he's come such a long way from Twilight. Like, I don't think he should get any crap for being in Twilight anymore and just how bad he was in that movie. That's, we can move past that now. He even did other films after Twilight too that I'm like, okay, he could be a solid Batman. And I've mentioned over and over again, The Lighthouse. Darius, I'm pretty sure you've seen that movie too. And that just showed, if he wasn't in a movie like that, then I would have been like, no, he wouldn't be a good Batman. He wouldn't have the experience that he needs under his belt to play someone like Batman the way that I wanted him to do it. But, he did, and he did very well.
Yeah, and
I thought Selena... So, go ahead.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that, the Bruce Wayne aspect. I think that goes into what Matt Reeves wanted to do with Bruce Wayne, is that Bruce Wayne, one of the great psychologies of Batman and why people, why I like this character is that Bruce Wayne is the mask. Batman is his true self. And so I like how Matt Reeves was really playing the toy of, like, this isn't an origin story, but this is an origin of Batman being what he's actually meant to be and not this what he thinks he needs to be. And I think there's a very different perspective with that, even in that wording. And I think seeing a Bruce Wayne that is still bitter, still distraught by his past, and how he almost can't really move on, and it's about the mission, the mission, the mission. That is something I really like, because that is Batman, really. And you can kind of see Bruce Wayne is slowly fading away. He really is. Batman's kind of taking over, but yeah, oh man, this movie was just brilliant in a lot of ways. So
Yeah, no, and like I said, Pattinson was amazing. Selena Kyle or Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle as Catwoman, I thought she was great too. I honestly love the chemistry between her and Robert Pattinson, and even then, just their little, I guess, romantic suggestions between the two of them. Like, I'm gonna guess, I thought they were enticing. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like it was something that had to be rammed down my throat. I liked how a lot of it was just suggestion. You see certain things happen, but I love the dynamic that they had. Colin Farrell, he is unrecognizable as the Penguin. Holy shit. I really tried hard to see Colin Farrell, and I just couldn't. I really couldn't.
He disappeared. It's that's nuts at what they did with Penguin. And I love what they did with Penguin too. There's a lot of stuff I like about the movie that my nitpicks the good overshadows it. So
Yeah. And again, it's weird, nothing really stands out to me so far, in this movie, as far as things that really threw me off. Maybe a couple things that were said here and there, but I'm like, it's a 3-hour movie. I'm not gonna let a couple of odd lines ruin a 3-hour movie for me. Also, John Turturro, he really took me by surprise as Carmine Falcone, the mob boss. And again, the role that he ends up playing, I thought he ended up being a side character, but no, his role, without giving it away, ends up being much bigger than I possibly imagined. I thought Jeffrey Wright and Andy Serkis were terrific as Jim Gordon and Alfred Pennyworth. And one of the biggest things that stands out in this film that I think a lot of people are going to remember this film for is the music. The musical score from Michael Giacchino. This is the same guy who did the scores for Up, Ratatouille, The Incredibles. This is just another film that just shows how talented he is. I loved how the score wasn't just background music. It stood out, but at the same time, the scenes in this film weren't reliant on his score to make them interesting.
Exactly.
And I remember, Roberto, again, another Roberto story, he made a prediction of the score being remembered for years to come, along with the score from The Dark Knight. And I think he's right on the money with that.
Yep. I think the best way for me to sum up this film is going to be how I'm going to sum up The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight still plays an important role, I think, even today with some of the themes, and is iconic for that reason. And I think the Batman is going to be just that, but now in a new modern day society, or, an updated society compared to that many years ago. And I think the Batman is on almost the same playing field of how great it was to The Dark Knight, both visually, music, all of that, with the themes and everything. So I think they're really top notch. If I had to choose, people might not be happy with the choice I would make.
It's weird. I still don't know which movie's better. I'm not sure if this beats The Dark Knight, but if it does it comes very, very close. I loved how lifelike this movie felt. It didn't feel like a cartoon. It didn't feel like a comic book, which I really enjoyed. It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily better, but it's just, it's going to be cups of tea for different people. But I think with what The Dark Knight symbolized is on par that what the Batman is today. And that's where it's that's why to me it's it's on an equal playing field. They're both great in their own way, but they're also iconic. And the reason, I guess, why we love these, why we love The Dark Knight is going to be in a similar boat as to why people love the Batman as well. So, and that's honestly, I think to me a great way of how I would sum it up and put it. So,
this film definitely stands out from the other Batman films. Definitely among the better Batman films. Again, dense story, sheer ambition. I love the new directions that they took the Batman character in, and it was worth seeing in IMAX. It was a great night out with my friends. It was a great time. Definitely worth the hour drive out to Stony Brook this past weekend. So for all you guys that are still with us, What did you all think of the Batman? Was it worth the wait? Was it worth the hype? Is it worth the extra $1.50 that you're going to have to pay at an AMC theater to watch this film? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. And that's it. That's all we've got for you today. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Pandora, YouTube, and so much more. If you want to help out the show, please give us a 5-star review on whatever platform you can, and follow our social media pages that are listed in the description. And tune in next week for our review of Disney Pixar's Turning Red, which will be going directly to Disney Plus in a strange turn of events. But, I'm sure it'll be interesting anyway. We'll see you then.